Hey, in this video, let's see what it would take to create a custom curve brush or a chain brush. In one of my previous videos, we took a look at a pre-made chain brush that already existed, and we just simply used it to apply it to a sphere. But what if you wanted to create something completely custom and unique? So you can of course do that in zBrush, but just for fun to kind of spice this up, why don't we use Maya as well? So in Maya, for example, let's create a chain brush that's relatively unique, and then bring it into zBrush and use that as a curve brush. All right, so to make a little custom chain, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my poly modeling tab, grab something like this torus, and let's go ahead and maybe dial this down a little bit so it's a little more kind of low poly, maybe something like that. You can figure out what makes sense. So I think this is pretty good. I'm going to make sure in my channel box that it is indeed in the center. I'm going to zero this out. So now I know it's centered. I'm going to grab my rotation tool, holding down the J key. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. Okay. And for the chain to work, I need two links, right? So I'm going to do Control D, make another link on top. Again, holding down the J key, I can rotate this 90 degrees. And right now we kind of have a basic boring chain, right? Let's customize this a little bit. So I'm going to grab both of these meshes. I'm going to combine them into one. I'm going to clear my history. So now I just have one mesh. And let's just do something fun. So I'm going to right click, go into a face mode. I'm going to click on one face, holding down the shift key. I'm going to double click and select the entire loop. And then I'm going to hold down the shift and repeat that same step on the other side. Okay, I like this. Next, I'm going to press Control E to go into extrude mode, or you can press this button here, it doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to keep my faces together. I'm going to click and say off. I'm going to click one time on this blue box, and then another box appears in the center. You can see that. I'm going to go ahead and scale this down so I have something that looks like that. Next, I'm going to press Control E, and using the blue axes, I'm just going to pull this in a little bit so I have something like that. I think I kind of like that. That's pretty cool. Another thing we can do is maybe if this was like a sci-fi chain, these could be glowing. I think that would be really neat. Another thing we can do is let's just do some more. I'm just gonna hold down the shift key, double click and select all of those. Let's click on this extrude button this time, press off. And let's repeat these steps. I'm going to click on this little box, maybe bring this in, and why not add some kind of a spike? So maybe do this, do Control E, and then I'm going to kind of pull this in. I'm going to click on this one time and just kind of do something like that. Again, I'm just trying to create something interesting and kind of custom. Control E, let's do one more. Maybe this could be a spike, so this could be some kind of a blade or a spike. How about like a wide blade? So something like that. Control E again, this time I'm going to push it out. And for my blade, I'm just going to make sure that these are kind of skinny, and maybe something like that. So this is let's say this is my custom chain link, and you can follow me along or make your own, whatever it is, right? So let's say we have something like this. Now, how do we turn this into a curve brush in zBrush? So the next step is going to be obviously selecting it. If we wanted to, we could clear our history. And let's go ahead and export this out. I'm going to export mine out just as a OBJ file. You can do OBJ or FBX, it doesn't really matter. Let's go ahead and jump into zBrush. Alright, so here I am in zBrush. You can just activate zBrush by, going to Lightbox and grabbing pretty much anything. I'm going to grab this 128. Then I'm going to go to Import, and import my OBJ file. So import your model that you mesh that you exported out of Maya. Once you do, let's go ahead and do this. Let's click on the perspective camera, and then holding down the shift key, let's just snap perfectly straight in the orthographic view. So this line is straight and this is looking nice and aligned, right? And then I'm going to click on the brush and do a create insert mesh, and I'm going to say new, and then you can see a little thumbnail shows up right there. So now I'm going to give myself something to draw this on. I'm going to go to Lightbox, grab my favorite DynoX 128, and now I have the sphere and I have my brush, right? So for me to use this brush, what I need to do first is I need to turn on the curve mode. So under stroke, you can see that here, or I have mine dragged on the side. If I go to stroke, there is something called curve, and there's a button called curve mode. If I turn that button on, right, now my insert brush is going to be used as a curve, right? So, which means I'm going to jump out of symmetry, pressing X, and then I'm just going to test my brush. If I try to just simply draw right on my sphere, I get something like this, okay? All right, so you can see that the spacing is a little bit off because we want, obviously, these rings to be connected, right? So I'm gonna undo. And what I'm gonna do is, under curve mode button, there's something called curve step. So I'm gonna do, let's see, how about 5, holding down the shift key, I can drag in another circle. And let's take a look. And yeah, I think this spacing kind of makes sense. So you have to play around with your curve step and just find the correct spacing that makes sense on your custom brush. So there you go. There you go. So let's do one more. I'm going to do a larger one, and maybe again drag my line, hold on the shift key, and just go in the circle. Do something like that. I think that's pretty cool. And now if I control and drag, I can make jump out of the mask mode, and then of course I can change the material, right, if I needed to. And there you have it. So this is how easy it is to create a custom curve brush, including a custom chain brush. And now, of course, if you wanted to, in this case, I would like to make this sphere a little smaller. So I'm going to turn on my polyframe, hold down Control Shift and click, and I'm going to, once you click on it, holding down Control Shift, click again, and that's going to hide the sphere but reveal just the chain, which means now we can mask this out. So holding down the Control, I can mask out just the chains, then hold on Control Shift and click, and you are in the empty area to bring the sphere back. And what this is going to allow me is it's going to allow me to scale, right? If I scale, I can of course put it in the center and maybe just control the size a little bit better. So maybe something just a little bit smaller, right? So the chain doesn't really go through the sphere. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to turn off my polyframe and do Control and drag to get rid of the mask, and there you go. So this is going to conclude our tutorial. I hope you found this useful. Have fun making your own custom curve brushes, and I'll see you in the next one.